So as Ben said, Trifecta has been involved in the F2 conferences for a while. This is my first visit, and I'd like to thank the three amigos for inviting me to play in the sandbox. It's been a very educational and fun couple of days, meeting a lot of people, hearing a lot of good ideas, and sharing experiences. I've been in the business since I was 17, started off in restaurants and gravitated into the entertainment. So that was a really fast 3.5 years. Actually, I've been in 48 years. The thing that I've learned, or some of the things I've learned, one of the most important things I see is that there's a lot of similarities between the laws of nature and business. And one of the big ones is adapt, migrate, or perish. And there's a lot of change going on in the world right now, and I wanted to look at two different things that I think are challenging to solve. The first, excuse me, is the changing target market. We're moving from boomers to the millennials. And the second is the effects of the minimum wage that we're all experiencing in most every state. Thank you. So one of my favorite things to do is on Sundays is to look at the Sunday paper. And my favorite section is the business section. And a couple weeks ago, I picked it up, and this was the headline on the front of the business section. And I thought, wow, if two behemoths like this can be threatened, this is a situation to take very seriously. So what we're seeing is, I'm a boomer. I see a lot of boomers out here. I see millennials. And for 40 years, the boomers determined a lot about our lifestyles, where we live, how we live, what our entertainment is, what our priorities are. And as the boomers retire and expire, we're seeing the millennials step into our shadows, and they are a very different generation. And they're having some really profound impacts on all aspects of society, where they live, how they live, and what their priorities are. The other thing I want to look at is the rising minimum wage, because that's a real challenge in a business that pays close to the minimum wage. Speaking for, I think, a lot of boomers, we often find that the millennial generation is a little perplexing, frustrating to deal with in a work environment, and challenging. Until we have a problem with our cell phone or our computer, then they're the first person we seek out. This generation is technically immersed. It's the first generation to grow up with computers, smartphones, social media, iPads, iPods, the whole deal. And that's positioned them to be a very desirable group demographic in the e-commerce business. And because they're so influential in that business, it's changing a lot of things from where they live. I think most people know that millennials are going downtown areas and having a very different lifestyle. And we see companies accommodating them and relocating from the suburbs where they went for the boomers to downtown urban environments so that they can capture the millennials. This generation's diverse in thought. I think in a lot of ways, they're more open-minded than my generation was. They like to experience new things, and they have very high expectations. What do you mean I'm not going to make $150,000 my first year? So it's important, if we're going to target this generation, that we peel back the layers a little bit and get to know them and what their culture is about. So if you're in the e-commerce business, you spend a lot of time in front of computer screens. And so after work, socialization is really critical for this group. And dining is the first choice. The average spend for millennials is over $3,000 a year. And that's a much bigger number than I think previous generations, or maybe a lot of people in this room. Their purchasing decisions are made based on value. And that's not the McDonald's dollar meal. It's what I call an experiential ROI. What's the return on investment? If I'm going to go spend money at this place, what do I get back? And the quality of the food, the social environment, is there entertainment? And They prefer experiences over possessions. They also prefer access to ownership. And if you're living downtown and you can walk most places you go, you don't really need a car. So rather than own a car, go to the expense of having to pay for a car and all the associated costs, I'll use Uber. And instead of having a second home and always going to the same place on vacation, I'll use Airbnb and see the world. As you've heard other people talk in the last couple of days, experience is what everybody's been talking about. And what we're going to see is there's a great opportunity here for FECs because we can provide, if done right, a lot of the elements that they're looking for. They find, in general, old customs like happy hour to be very boring and are looking for new and exciting ways to interact after work. They love to eat and drink, and what they look for is authenticity, healthy food, and environmental friendly farm to table. When looking at cuisine specifically, exploring new cuisines is looked at as a social adventure. I have some millennial nephews and nieces, and one of my nieces she's into this thing where she has parties at her house, and they'll pick a cuisine. They'll pick Romanian food. And everybody has to research what Romanian food is and bring a dish. And then everybody comes, they eat, they discuss the food, they discuss the culture, and what they like and what they don't. They'll also look for gut-healthy, adding probiotics or anti-inflammatory ingredients like turmeric or flaxseed, which was on the Rick White handout. I think flaxseed reduces inflammatory issues. And then one of the current hot trends is Asian island, which you can say Philippines. That seems to be a real popular trend at the moment. And it's sour, bitter, aromatic blended food. When it comes to alcohol, it's a lot of the same. They're looking for craft beers and craft spirits, which if you're paying attention to the food and beverage industry, both those are exploding. Even a place like Arkansas, where you have a lot of dry counties, there's still 28 craft breweries in the state. And I haven't been to a state yet where you couldn't build a really good local craft beer around. When looking at concepts, they've demonstrated a dislike for mass-produced brands like Budweiser or Coors, and you see a lot of the big beverage companies are buying up craft breweries and craft distilleries because they can't really compete. So to stay strong, they're buying up the competition. They also prefer locally operated and owned restaurant concepts over national brands. And I think that's because most local operators are going to have a lot more of the ingredients and authenticity than a brand is able to produce. The very nature of a brand is to put a product out for as many people as they can, and to do that with any degree of consistency requires having a cookie cutter box, pre-prepared food in order to execute on a consistent basis. And they look for unique ways to mix food, entertainment, dining, and socialization, which is what most of us are about here. In summary, boomers aren't going away, and we don't want to ignore them, but we really need to start paying attention to what millennials look for in our food and beverage programs, and then ways to take our product and create a social, entertaining experience. I've worked with some movie theater companies that are adding bowling, adding arcades, adding laser tag to their movie business. And some of those guys are approaching dwell times of over 4 hours. And that allows us, if we create the right box, that an FEC becomes a natural place to host those people, where they can come and eat quality food and have craft beers and liquors, socialize, and be entertained. In our business, I like to call FECs RECs, restaurant entertainment companies, or concepts, centers. And because in our business, our food percent of sales is between 50 and 75%. And most of us in our organization came from the restaurant business originally. So we'll look at, okay, what kind of restaurant can we put here? What's the niche? And then we'll say, what other attractions and activities can we build around that restaurant? The second thing is the labor costs. I don't think there's anybody here that's not dealing with it or worried about it. 29 states currently exceed the federal minimum wage of $7.25. Many companies, and you heard this from some previous speakers, are starting people at $15. It's Walmart, Target, In-N-Out Burger, Sonic Burger, McDonald's. And I totally believe that, as one of the speakers earlier said, that the minimum wage should be market-driven. I couldn't hire anybody today at minimum wage in the state of Colorado, not in the Front Range, because I couldn't get anybody. We're under 3% unemployment. And if you want talent, you want good people, you're gonna have to pay the market price. Some cities, like Seattle, have a mandated living wage of $15. I think maybe New York City does too. And then some states like Colorado, in our wisdom, we've put the minimum wage increases into the Constitution. So it's mandated every January 1st, minimum wage is gonna go up based on the consumer price index. That makes it very challenging. I also own a couple of restaurants in Colorado, and it's scaring the dickens out of us because, we can only raise the prices so much before people start pushing back. So how do we respond to that? First thing is that you can't compromise food or quality. That's just puts you into a death spiral. And so we're looking at creative ways that we can reduce our labor and still provide the kind of service and quality product that we want. And one of our discussions, and we haven't really come to a conclusion on it yet, is there a role for fast casual in our business? We feel very strongly that servers are salespeople, and we can get a higher ticket average when we have a person at the table talking to a guest, selling specials, upgrading liquor, and things that you don't have when you have fast casual. So there's a price to be paid if you go on that route. You see a lot of the chains going to tablet ordering systems such as Ziosk. I've seen them at Olive Garden, Red Robin, and Chili's. And then at McDonald's and Panera now, they have ordering kiosks in a lot of them. So you don't even talk to the counter person. And one of the things about technology as it advances is it keeps putting barriers between people. When I was a kid, the gas station attendant came out and filled your car, washed your windshield, and talked to you. Well, I haven't talked to a gas station attendant. I don't even think they exist outside of New Jersey and Oregon. The banks, you used to have to go into the bank and talk to the teller. Now you don't ever talk to a teller. And with all these things coming up, it keeps putting barriers between people. But people have a need, boomers and millennials, to socialize. And we've got a product here that we can use to accomplish that. To succeed in the next few years, we need to look at how we can create and modify and cater to the changing demographics. I'm a boomer. A lot of people here are boomers. See a lot of millennials. We're all humans, and for the most part, we get along great. But we have to identify that the upcoming millennials are going to drive a lot of change in products. I mean, look what's happening in the retail business alone. How do you use IT and creatively manage your labor in order to maintain a profit? And once we figure that all out, we have Generation Z coming up the pike, and that's going to be a whole new experience.
Michael, thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
Everyone, Michael Long from F2FEC.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, really.